gentlemen, welcome to the channel. Now, before you click off and you're like, why the hell are you not playing any music right now? This is not what I'm here for. Give me a second, I'll try to explain. So, the past few weeks on YouTube, I have transcribed and recorded a bunch of stuff from the new Octopath Traveler II soundtrack, which was a soundtrack that I enjoyed very much. And many people have found my channel in these few weeks. So, if you're one of them, hello, I want to formally welcome you here in the great world of male pattern baldness. That is BadHairlineProductions. But anyway, people have asked me, what is my process for all this? How do I record music? You know, we want to see a little bit of behind the scenes. And because of that, I thought, well, let me do just that. I'm going to go through my process of creating a cover, and I want to take you with me today. So, I started doing some 8-bit chiptune style remixes of some of this stuff from Octopath Traveler 2, and so far I'm having a lot of fun with them, and I hope you do as well. If you haven't seen them, just search on my YouTube tab. You can find them in the description as well. And today I decided to make an 8-bit chiptune remix of Hikari's theme, Hikari the Warrior. And this is how I do it. So, first things first, when I transcribe music, I either use this software right here, it's called Guitar Pro 7, because it's very nice and easy to use. You know, not much time and effort is needed to get into using the software, and I've been using Guitar Pro ever since version 4 was out, so it's been a few years, and I think it's kind of became second nature using Guitar Pro. So what you can see here, obviously we've got the main window with the actual sheet music. Down here we've got the tracks. In this case we've got a total of 10 tracks. First violin, second violin, viola, cello. I put electric bass, obviously in the original it's a double bass, but I put it as electric bass because I'm going to be playing it on electric bass when recording. So that's the reason for that. We've got some percussion, like as in orchestral percussion. I added the drum groove because that's kind of what I do. I need some groove in my life. I am a jazz musician after all. A piccolo, it says here, it's just a kind of flute thing, like some Japanese type flute in the original. We got some horns and trumpet as well. Now, as you can see, the trumpet is playing, you know, 2 notes, so it's technically 2 trumpets, but I just put it into one track because it's quite unison, because it always just plays, you know, in unison, basically. All right, now, with that out of the way, I transcribed all of the music, and but that's not going to sound like a chiptune remix. It's going to sound like this, with the general MIDI type sounds built into Windows. So it's got some gravitas to it, but you know, you wouldn't necessarily call this a fantastic sounding piece of music at this point. So, what do? Well, first thing first, I export a MIDI file from this, which you can do just like that. It creates a MIDI file. Now, I already did, so we don't have to go through that again, but it exports all the information of all the tracks, every pitch, and all of that. And with that, I'm going to create now a project in Cubase, which is the DAW that I use for this. What I just did was just import my MIDI file into Cubase 5, and it's going to look like this. So we've got all our 10 tracks here on the left side. They all have the same names I gave them in Guitar Pro. We also have like all the rehearsal marks that I created, and now we are pretty much good to go to create our 8-bit remix. When I press play here, nothing is happening because I haven't assigned any instruments, any sounds, or anything to any of those tracks. Those are just MIDI information. It's basically like a text file that says play the note C over here, play the note E over here, and so on and so forth. But you have to actually put an instrument track, a virtual instrument on it for it to make sound. One thing you might find odd, right here we have our measures, and it starts at measure -3. I like to do that to have a little bit of wiggle room in the beginning, so I'm just going to drag all my tracks over here so it starts at measure 1. I think it's extremely important to have a little bit of wiggle room at the end and at the beginning of any given song that I record. So that's why I do that. I also think it is very important to have these rehearsal marks on top here, so I always know where the hell I even am in any song that I do. Now, alright, let's start making the track. Now, one of the first things I like to do is just cut unnecessary stuff and glue all the tracks together so I don't have little snippets of measures like the trumpets down here. They only play in these few measures, but I still prefer to have it be a complete track so I don't mess around with it. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is color my tracks so it's not just a blob of gray. And I have a specific coloring scheme that I always use. My drum and percussion stuff I always want to have blue, so let me go ahead and do that. My strings I tend to have in like light orange, so I'm going to color these like so. My bass I always want to have yellow. Woodwinds like flutes and wood I prefer to have green, and brass I like in a bit of a darker shade of orange. For like synthesizer stuff, guitar leads and so on, I usually make them red or other like shades of blue and whatnot. This is the basic kind of coloring scheme that I like to do. And just to be safe, I'm going to save this project here on my desktop here in the folder that I created, if I can find it. Right here. Here we go. Alright, so the basic project is now set up in a way that I like to do it. The first instrument I typically look at is the drums, because what's a good piece of music without a steady groove behind it? So I'm going to apply a drum kit to my drum track. And before I start playing around with it, I want to have some reverb. So probably something like this works. This is a free reverb plugin that I use called Old School Verb. Certainly there are other ones out there that are good, but this is just one that I kind of like. Okay, so let's give it a try and see how the drums sound now. So this is the drum groove that I created in Guitar Pro as a MIDI file, and this is my 8-bit drum kit interpreting it. Which I think, it sounds quite neat, but there's still a lot to be done. So I usually go in here, MIDI, drum editor, and see what I can do to make things a little bit smoother. For example, this cymbal swell, I think I like quite a bit, but it is a bit simplistic, so we might redraw the curve like so for the velocity. And that is actually quite cool. Okay, now on top here we have the kick drum, which has a few different values here and there, either by accident, but I'm going to all set it to the maximum velocity of 127. And now the kick drum is nice and steady. It was always the same kind of punch that we want. Now, here we've got some toms, the low toms. If we put all of them now suddenly at the same velocity, it would sound a bit off. It would sound a little bit unhinged. So I'm going to go back and leave it at this, 80 or 79 velocity, because I think it sounds pretty good. And then the last two in like the second measure each time, they can have a little bit more punch. Again, this is all done in Guitar Pro before, so that's why all these notes have different velocities. And I typically like to do the kick drum have, high velocity, snare drum as well. You can see as well here with the snare drum. It's all the same, apart from a few ghost notes that will appear later, but we're not quite there yet. So, I like how it interprets this, what's supposed to be a Chinese symbol. So I'm gonna leave it there. Alright, that sounds pretty neat. That kind of could be an 8-bit drum groove. Now obviously it's not very punchy, and it's also kind of quiet at this point, so let me just go ahead and up the volume. Of both the track and the entire project. Alright, and now we're sitting here just vibing to the groove. Now the other track that is dealing with drum stuff is the percussion. The orchestral percussion. Now, orchestral percussion in this kind of thing would be something that I have to experiment with, because I don't know how good it would sound with this kind of 8-bit drum sound. So we shall see. Also going to put some reverb on there and some compression. Okay, it gives us a nice low bounce to it. Now, how does it work in conjunction with the drums? You lose a little bit of that, but if we later in the mixing stage put some more reverb on it and all that, I think it's going to create a full sounding drum groove at the very end. So I'm just going to leave it in there for now. Okay, up next, a drum groove all by itself is a bit boring, so we're going to need some bass to add to it. So let me just go in here and select one of the Game Boy type bass sounds for it, and we'll see how it sounds. Just a very basic saw wave, but it adds a lot more. Now, it might sound a bit weird at first, but technically I like it. The only thing though that we have to change, now I'm not working on a Game Boy, I'm not working with like little sound DJ or anything, but a Game Boy is not really capable of producing notes that low. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab all of it and transpose it up an octave to see how it sounds. It would sound like this. So I think I'm gonna leave it right there. Now here, accidentally, I guess I put some different kind of velocity, so let me all just move it back to 80, or is it 79, where everything else is, just to have it from 0. Now when it comes to velocity, good virtual instruments, the timbre of the actual instrument changes when you change the velocity. With this kind of plugin that I'm using, it really only changes the volume of the note, so we can pretty much just use our velocity here as a different level of volume control, which is what I'm doing here. I want to have it all nice and stable. I don't want to have the bass jump out too much and then fall back. Alright, and now we have a fun little bass for our song here. Alright, now before I tackle all the strings, I want to first go and work with the wind instruments. So I'm going to go ahead and create something for the piccolo flute, or just flute, really. And for that, I want a sound that isn't the sawtooth. I want something a little bit more sweet, a little bit more fine sounding. So this, for example, already sounds pretty good to my ears. How about this one? This could be even better because the flute in the original song really doesn't carry the melody much, it just adds a little bit on top. And this sound is very like harsh and very trebly, but I think it would work very well in conjunction with the other instruments. So we'll leave it for now. Obviously, this is just still the setting up stage of everything. Oh, and there again, we have some velocity. It jumps out a bit too much, so let me just all set it to the same value. Just to keep it smooth. And that's why I glue all the tracks together and I don't want something like this, because then I can just go through the entire track without having to readjust all the damn time. Alright, so I'd say this is good for now. Up next, the French horns. Now obviously French horns are a different type of instrument than the flute, so we would want a very different type of sound for it. Now, the French horns in the original song have like this counter melody going on, so I don't want to be them like super upfront, so we'll just try a pretty standard basic Game Boy type square wave and see what happens. I like it, but you see the sound doesn't have a very long sustain, so I would love the notes to ring out a little bit longer, so I'm going to use a different type of sound. So all of these square waves have a very short sustain, so I think I have to go with something else. No sharp square, but something. Okay, that would probably be a bit too much, the guitar. But maybe this kind of bass sound might work. So again, we just leave it there. Make sure our velocity is always set to the same value. Now this is interesting now. Here at measure 17, we've got two notes in the horns at the same time. A Game Boy isn't really capable of producing two notes at the same time on the same track. So probably what I want to do now is make them alternate. Something like this maybe, oops. Where I just jump back and forth between these notes. Could work. Maybe I'll change it later, but I'm gonna leave it as it is right now. Oops, that was a bit too much. Then let me readjust like so. And now like so. Not quite perfect, but again, it's just the basic setting up of it. So I'll stick with it for now. Oops. Now the same section happens later again in the song. So I'm just going to copy over everything from here. I forgot one little note. And put it in here. All right, and that's okay. French horns done for now. Go pretty loud. I'm gonna drop the volume by a little bit, and off we go. Now the trumpets we already talked about. We also have multiple notes going on at the same time, so we're gonna have to do something with them to make them work. Now the trumpets, they can be a bit more harsh. Yeah, something like this might work. Or maybe we even have like a brass sound already. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that one works best for what I'm trying to accomplish. So what do we do? Again, we can just alternate between the notes, but I'm already doing this on the horns, so maybe I can like do some crazy arpeggiated stuff with it. The way I would do something like this is maybe like this, where I just have it go through a few more octaves. Okay, that's already a bit too high. So what notes do we have? We have A and D, so why not just another A, here's another D, another A, another D. Oops. Now just copy all of that over. And now copy all of that over. And add one final low note. Missing one. There we go. Oops, not that way, right? Okay, now this is going to be like the same as here. So let me just go ahead and copy all of that. But here we're going to have to do something a little bit more creative. So again, we're just going to put some wild arpeggios in there. And just see how it sounds. And maybe now do something completely ridiculous, like have this one go over like 3 or 4 octaves. Which obviously is not something a trumpet could play, but we're not dealing with a real trumpet, so we shouldn't be concerned with what a trumpet can or cannot do. But at some point, this is the last note it can play, and this one is already out of range. So we're gonna have to move back down again. Maybe something like this could work. Okay, there's just one thing I don't like is having the same top note repeated twice. So let me just and have that incredibly awesome sounding low note at the end there. I think that works quite well. And since again this section just happens later in the same way, I'm just going to copy it over. And just like that, out of these simple little trumpet chords, we created some wild and wacky arpeggios that I think are quite nice. Alright, so that's the wind section. Now it's time to tackle some of our strings. I'm gonna start by setting up the first violin, and given that we are dealing with not real strings, but just the same kind of string patch over and over, what I usually do is create the instrument here once, and once it's done, I just copy the track a few times and drag my other strings on top. That way I don't have to click the same stuff over and over again. I'm just gonna have to rename these copied tracks and we are good to go. Whoops. Dealing with some velocity stuff here. It's nice and even. Other tracks I like that violin one on top. It's kind of chiptune to begin with, so no need to change. Okay, I don't like the cello ringing throughout here. Yeah, fix that. There's still another one ringing, Ah, yes, the one. So let me fix it. There it is. That is the basis for what I'm going to do now in the next step, which is the mixing stage. And once that's done, I'm gonna be back and show you the final result of this track that I just created of Hikari the Warrior, the 8-bit remix. And now, it is finished. Here we go. This is my 8-bit remix of Hikari the Warrior using some sound fonts, and I'm in no way, shape or form claiming that this is like how you do 8-bit music. This is just an approach that I, as a non-8-bit musician, found that works kind of for me. I am well aware that there is so much wrong with this at so many levels. But still, these are kind of sounds that I started messing around with. This is pretty much just my beginning of creating music in this kind of style. And I'm obviously always trying to learn new things. You know, I've messed around with a few trackers and whatnot. But for now, this is what I stick with. And I think y'all deserve to have an exclusive preview of this song now, given you sat down and watched the video, which I'm very thankful for. So, without further ado, here is Hikari the Warrior. And that was an exclusive preview of my 8-bit remix of Hikari the Warrior from Octopath Traveler, written by Yasunori Nishiki. Now, I'll still probably change a few things here and there before I officially release it, but you know, I hope you enjoyed watching me go through this, and in just about an hour or so I created this remix, and maybe it will inspire one of you to also start doing something like this. Now obviously I could have just gone ahead and instead of doing an 8-bit remix, doing like a full orchestral remix using some of my orchestral VST libraries and whatnot. But given that I haven't done much 8-bit stuff and I still want to learn many more things in regards to that, I wanted to mess around and doing this chiptune style remix of it. Once again, if you're a chiptune artist yourself, you probably were shaking your head at every single turn right here, because again, I am not a real chiptune artist. I just enjoy the sound and I started messing around with some sound fonts that kind of sound like it. But I'm well aware that the real stuff is completely different than this. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think of this. Let me know if this is something that I should pursue and maybe go much more into like little sound DJ or like Fami tracker and stuff like that to create like actual chiptune music. Or if you just want to tell me, hey, stop doing this, just keep playing guitar, and we'll see. I'm also probably going to be doing a bit more like behind the scenes kind of stuff. So if you want to like look at my guitar recording process and everything, I would urge you to subscribe. But I just created channel memberships now for my channel because I feel like I want to share more of this. But you know, maybe not everybody's going to be interested. So I'm probably going to put these behind the scenes on my channel just for the channel members. So if you're interested in that, become a member now. You won't regret it, I promise. And you're going to get to see a lot more of this ever elongating forehead of mine, which, I mean, come on. That's just sexy. Anyway, that was it for today. I will release the full version of Hikari the Warrior, the 8-bit chiptune remix, a bit later. And yeah, I'll see you at my next video. Take care and goodbye. Hairline out.